we are alpha dogs. That's what we are. And so, how do two alpha dogs merge, right?
Welcome to the Fueling Deals Podcast, the podcast that teaches how to accelerate your business growth through all types of deals. It's time to fuel up, so buckle in with your host, Corey Kupfer.
There are only two ways to grow your business: organically through sales and marketing and providing great products and services, and inorganically through deals. Too many companies focus only on the first way, organic growth. Welcome to the podcast, which will help accelerate your business growth inorganically. My guests are a huge variety of deal makers and experts on all types of deals who have personal experience that can help you grow, get clear, learn best practices, and avoid mistakes. We discuss everything from large, complex mergers and acquisitions to smaller deals that you can do without significant capital. My guest today is Mary Ann Buchanan. Mary Ann is the founder of RIA Match, which provides advisor solutions for succession planning and growth. Mary Ann has over 30 years experience in the wealth management industry as both an advisor and on the institutional level in business development and relationship management. She began her career building a successful advisory practice. Mary Ann provides thought leadership on overcoming the human biases that play a role in the approach to succession planning and M&A. She's been quoted in all kinds of phenomenal publications. She appears in industry panels. Her full bio is going to be in the show notes, so take a look at it. I am so thrilled to have Mary Ann Buchanan on the program. Welcome.
Hi, Corey. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm just thrilled with your podcast series, and I can't wait to listen to all of them. It's a great idea. It's going to be very helpful for advisory firm principals. Thanks
so much. So, and listen, listeners, Mary Ann and I have known each other for a number of years now, and I've appeared on some of her webinars and shows, and she does great work in the investment advisor industry. But the principles that she's going to be talking about around deals also apply outside the industry. So whether you are a wealth management RIA listener, or whether you're an entrepreneur in some other business, there's going to be a lot of gems here. So, Mary Ann, I want to start out by, before we get into what you do for people and RIA Match and how you founded your company, I want to take you back. And
okay,
when you were a little girl growing up, what did you want to be? Because my guess is it wasn't creating a online matching platform for in the investment advisor space for deals and succession. My guess is when you were 4, 6, 8, 10, or whatever, that wasn't it, right?
No, it certainly wasn't, Corey. What a fun question. Thank you. I haven't been asked that one before. So I grew up sort of surrounded by my father in the business community in New York, right?
Okay.
So like the Wall Street Journal, Chemical Week, these were all things that were just around all the time. And so I actually, at a very young age, started reading the Wall Street Journal. Maybe 12.
Wow.
And so when I went, and I had no idea that was not normal. I go to college. What do? You bring with you what you want, right? So I get a subscription to the Wall Street Journal. And boy, did I realize at that point that wasn't normal. They made huge fun of me. But anyway, I wanted to be in the business world. I wanted things that were growing and changing and making an impact. That I always wanted to do, where I could actually move the needle. So that's probably the beginning of the entrepreneurial aspect.
So let's take it from there. So what was your first real business, however you define that?
So literally out of college, back to that entrepreneurial energy and ownership, right? I started out in 1983, a graduate from University of Michigan in econ, started out in 1983 at the oldest brokerage firm in Washington, D.C., Folger, Nolan, Fleming, Douglas. And it was a joy because they had great clients and a great outlook, and there was no minimum. It was do the best you can, right? For any client that you get, do the best that you can. So that was a real privilege to be able to start in our industry that way from a commissionable side versus, so they had the outlook of the fee side, right? On the commissionable side. And so a phone, a desk, and a pat on the back, and I could create what I wanted to create. And I knew if I made it or I didn't make it, it was because of what the value I brought to the table to my clients.
Right. So it's interesting for people who don't understand that model. You didn't own the company, but you were an entrepreneur because it was, basically what you produced is what you produced, and nobody handed you anything, and you ran your own thing. So it's that's an entrepreneurial opportunity, even without being an owner.
Right. And actually, in that particular model, they would never have taken my clients. I did leave that firm and went to another firm. These small regional firms, they were like, these are your clients. No one's calling
Yes,
anybody.
exactly. Right. So you owned your book, so you owned your client base. Exactly.
Yeah.
So now, was RIA Match the first company that you owned, or did you have any other entrepreneurial ventures outside of owning your book, a business, when you were doing that prior to RIA Match?
Yeah, no. So I was a financial advisor and basically built it. And then my husband got transferred, and I thought, oh my God, he's going to get transferred. So every couple of years in this corporate journey we were on. So that's when I went to work in with different investments that I would actually be working with advisors. So I switched from being an advisor to working with advisors.
That's great.
Yeah.
So let's just give a quick overview of what RIA Match does, because I mean it's such a phenomenal platform in the industry, and also just the concept of having a marketplace for M&A and succession is a concept that could apply across industries, and there are some other examples in other industries as well, and it's such a useful thing. So can you tell our listeners what that is and how you do it and the value you provide?
Sure, Corey. Thanks. So RIA Match, we have two basic offerings. One is the platform. And so it's match.com for financial advisors to partner their practices. So instead of dating, you're actually looking for mergers and acquisitions. So it's for advisors to buy, sell, merge, join, or add advisors to their practice. And it's all channels. It's it's RIA Match, so we're primarily RIAs, but we have independent broker-dealers and wirehouse advisors, wirehouse reps. We've got the banking channel, everybody. This is here for everybody to come and look to see who they would be matched with for their goal. It's a month-to-month subscription. We're the lowest cost provider, $30, $50 a month. They can upgrade and downgrade on a monthly basis. It can be free just to see if they've got any matches. I was really motivated to bring the solution to advisors because technology can take you so far. There's so much out there. And what we decided is let's create the playing field. We're not going to call the plays. Create the playing field. And so it's anonymous and secure. So the advisor can decide, there's an internal messaging system like many of these systems, and they then reveal who they are if and when they choose to. So the power is in the hands of the advisor. And that was important to me. Now, we launched in 2012, and in 2015, we launched RIA Match Concierge Consulting. Because while the platform is tremendous, sometimes technology will take you so far and you need human help. So we started Concierge Consulting for those who wanted a human touch point, whether it's to help them create their value proposition, to do the searching for them, to get them started on the platform part way. We have different stages of help for advisors so that you can work with one of our consultants.
That's great. So let's start getting into some of the lessons you've learned, either through the platform, through the consulting, through your years in the industry. In terms of let's say some of the challenges, which and I always look at the other side of a challenge as an opportunity, right? If people start to understand it, but some of the challenges that let's say some sellers have. I mean, you and I have talked in the past of something called the IKEA effect and things like that. So right. Jump in and let's talk about what you see there.
Sure. Well, it's a challenge for sellers to, or it's a challenge to come and consider being a seller. So if we look at our industry as a whole, buyers to sellers is 50-1, 50 buyers for every one seller. So we have to say, well, why is that? Because probably as we know we have this aging demographic, right? The average investment advisor is in his late 50s, which means you have many, many that are much older. Why is that? Well, because these advisors have that entrepreneurial energy and ownership from day one and worked to gain every client's trust. The advisor's name's probably on the door. So they built this, and it's very difficult for them to let go. Really on a couple things. One, Corey, you're talking about the IKEA effect. So that's actually a thing. IKEA effect is a phrase and a way of thinking that, we all go to IKEA and, you go Send your kid to college, they need a dresser. You're like, okay, well, I'm not bringing a good one from home. Let's go to IKEA, let's get one and get them set and all those screws, and you put it together, and it takes far more time than you thought, and you built it, and you think, my God, this is the best dresser ever, right? And someone says, well, this dresser sells for this. No, it doesn't. It's much more than that because I built it. So sellers tend to overvalue their firm. It's very common, and it's a tough one to overcome. But they can do it. A seller can sort of begin to look at it. One of the things they need to do is figure out what their next step is. But that's another topic.
Yeah. So before we go there, I'm really interested because you raised a couple of things, right? One is the IKEA effect, and which causes people to overvalue. You also mentioned actually a few things. You mentioned the 50-to-1 buyer to seller ratio, and then also the even just having people make the decision to sell. So I want to drill into that because I would, my guess is based upon our past conversations, you'd probably agree with this, but feel free to disagree. You don't need to agree. When we say 50-to-1 buyer to seller, the way I guess I would phrase it, if we really drill down on it, it's 50-to-1 in terms of who says they want to be a buyer versus a seller. It's a different ratio potentially on who should be a buyer or a seller. So you want to talk about that?
Sure. It takes to own your own business takes thick skin. And we are alpha dogs. That's what we are. And so, how do two alpha dogs merge, right? So it's a challenge. And it's also difficult to say, all right, I'm ready to sell. So here are these buyers. So let's talk about the buyer for a second. If you were a buyer and you think, I'm going to be a buyer, you should go through sort of what is my value proposition? What can I offer to a seller that would help their clients first, right? Because it's not all about money. What can I bring to them that would be accretive to their clients? Secondly, what can I bring that's accretive to their staff and their firm and the advisor as a whole? So that's a lot of buyers they have these blind spots about what they have this laundry list of what they want out of an ideal client, firm to buy, right? A seller. And they forget that there are so few sellers and that the buyer needs to look at what can I bring to the seller. Does that answer it?
Yes. No. I love that. And so Mary Ann, so I am a quote unquote buyer. And I say to you, listen, of course I have a value proposition, man. We're a great place to work and we really care about our clients.
Right. And so what's the differentiator?
Exactly.
Which advisor, tell me an advisory firm that doesn't say they love their clients, they're there to take care of them. I look at, I work with advisors every day and I spend time on their websites and it's just a sea of the sameness and it's very difficult, right?
Yeah, I sort of brought that up because I'm usually on the other side of that. I'm the one who's hearing, because I asked that same question,
sure.
Always with my clients because listen, from my point of view, I mean, not that I consult or match people or do the things you do, but, I have ongoing clients, right? And they'll often say to me, "Hi, Corey, we'd love to grow. If you know of anybody, just let me know. We're looking to acquire." And I say to them, "Okay, well, do you have a target on, who you're looking for? Do you know?" Well, and sometimes it's muddled. Sometimes they know, sometimes they have an idea, they want to expand a particular geography or they have a, particular type of expertise or whatever that they want to, bring in, but a lot of times they're like, no, we'd just like to grow, if you know any good advisors, so they don't even have a target. And then also when I said to them, okay, what's your value proposition to them or why would they come to you? I get what I sort of parroted back to you, we're a great place to work. So.
No, that's right. The advisor needs to have a very clear understanding. The principal has to have a very clear understanding first before they decide who they want to buy. They have to have a very clear understanding of who they are as a firm. So that sounds easy, but it actually takes some work. Who are we? What is our, what are we to our clients? What are we to our staff, to each other, right? And I know that sounds soft and light and, qualitative, but until you can figure that out, you can't figure out your value proposition. And then you need to decide, as you said, Corey, the who, right? First, the what we are, who do we want to bring on? how do we want to grow? And you must identify, because, again, size, location, you want to look at, is there a match in business model, investment strategy, right? Philosophy and culture. So here's the thing. We all tend to gravitate toward the quantitative. First off, it makes us feel like a science, right? And so we want the quantitative. So we come in and we were like, oh, well, we're going to buy someone for, this EBITDA or this multiple of revenue or whatever, right? And we want this and we want that, all these numbers, this AUM size, that, and they find someone and those numbers line up because that's what they're focused on, the numbers. And then all of a sudden the deal blows up because they never stopped to check what is our philosophy and culture and are they aligned? So if those aren't aligned, it doesn't matter how great the numbers are.
Yeah.
Right?
So what are some of the things in that area of philosophy and culture that can conflict that people should really be focused on?
Well, they want to, let's look at a number of different angles. So from a firm, right? Are you an open door policy firm, or is everything very agenda based, very formal, right? Is everything a structured meeting on your calendar, or can I just walk into an office? Something that simple. Do you hire because of a person's drive and what they can bring to the table, their skill set, or is really the first thing you look at, did they graduate from a single syllable university? And so is it more pedigree? Those kinds of things don't seem like a big deal, but that can be a very big deal. Are you trying to? There's a challenge right now in our country, in our culture, in our world. There's about a 14% female participation in the wealth management. So they're like, we're going to get a woman. If we get a woman on here, this will just be great. I'm like, no, actually, what you need to have to be the right fit. Look at men and women. And if it happens to be a woman and it's the right fit, that's great. But just to go out and say, I'm going to pick a gender and make it work, right? Oh, this is a woman. She's in the business. We'll pull her in. No, that's the philosophy and culture. Is there a fit? Do you like the person, right? Especially if they're not selling and leaving, right? And because they tend to bring clients in that they get along with, that, if the client is used to a certain, they only deal with pedigree advisors, right? That won't be a good fit. So there's a trickle down effect.
Yeah, and those things are so important. And it's interesting that you alluded to before that some people look at these as softer items and whatever, which is, it's strange that they get that, those characters. I mean, I get it. I get numbers are hard and legal structures are hard, but the word soft is, it's so important that the word soft seems to, underplay it. And listen, I think there's a shift. I think there's a shift across the entire entrepreneurial community to put a higher value on cultural fit and,
right.
And things like that. I mean, from Zappos and Tony Hsieh's book and all these things that triggered the conversation in the entrepreneurial community in the last decade. So I think it is starting to shift, and people, and we more often hear soft skills is not a dismissive thing, but as a recognition that they are, the quote unquote soft skills are important.
That's right.
But
That's right.
so I think it's evolving, but they are so important.
And also in our business, which is a relationship business, certainly technology, every advisory firm has been touched by the advancement in technology. And it has been a huge game changer, not only for the larger firms, but it's making smaller firms very profitable because they can manage on a few. But this is still a relationship business. And you need to connect with your clients. And if you're acquiring a firm, you need to be able to connect with their clients. So that comes back to the, alignment of philosophy and culture. And then, so that's the human side, but then alignment of philosophy and culture from a business side. So, if you're a passive, so in our world, if your investment management philosophy is passive, and you're using DFA or using, ETFs, iShares, right? And you're looking at a firm that is an active manager with individual securities, that's going to be an issue. Better talk about that right away. Bring that up. Right. Are they willing to make the change? That's a big leap. Are their clients? How will they explain that to their clients? Will their clients go along with that? So that's a big challenge on investment vehicles. If a firm has been very much an alpha firm, and they're trying to just bring the difference in, so maybe they're doing a lot of alternatives, but they're talking to a firm that they're really comprehensive wealth management. Unless they're looking to grow in that way, you have to look at what is your, and that's back to your differentiation, right? What is your value proposition here? And if you're not looking for someone that's bringing those alternatives, that alpha, that's not really what you're looking for, then is that the right fit?
And it's really interesting, Mary Ann, because sometimes when it comes to me, people will say, in addition to the, hey, do you know anybody? But they'll say to me, hey, Corey, I want to start acquiring. How should I structure my deals? Like, what structure should I use to bring people in? And I always say, well, I don't know. What are your objectives? Who are you trying to bring in? What are the reasons you're doing it? Because, you can do an onboarding deal to bring in a hired advisor. You can do a tuck-in to bring in a small, which is basically a small acquisition. You can do a bigger acquisition. You can do it for cash. You can do it for equity. You can do it for,
combination.
Back end.
Sure.
You can do it for
earn out. Yeah.
So, I think sometimes people get hung up on structures because they heard that XYZ firm or their friend's firm or sort of structured this way. And I always bring it back to, hey, listen, don't worry, that's what you pay me for, right? I'll figure out a structure.
Exactly. See, but there's that concrete again. If I walk around with the right structure, I'll find the right firm to buy because I have this great structure, right? Another thing is size. When we look at advisory firms looking to acquire another firm, so when we talk about that 50 to 1, they're indiscriminate about whether they're a buyer or seller. They may have very small AUM and think, I'm going to be a buyer. And so that's part of that value prop thing again. But two firms of varying sizes can come together and still they shouldn't get too hung up on the AUM because they can still bring huge value to the firm.
Yeah, I mean, somebody, some large firm may have $1 billion in assets under management. Somebody is small, but maybe the smaller firm has an in a particular industry or segment, or they're really experts, or location, or they really know, real estate alts really well, and that's a niche opportunity for a niche, all that stuff. So that's great. So let me ask you, going back to the capabilities of RIA Match. So a lot of these things that we're talking about, alignment of investment philosophy, approach on clients, some of the quote unquote softer stuff. How much, is it basically like, how much can people tell on the platform about any of those? And then, of course, I know there's a point at which they connect, and obviously they can get into that more deeply. But I'm curious as to how much of the technology covers that, and where they, need to then go live or connect directly
right.
to get more of that.
Thank you for asking that. When you build your profile on RIA Match, it's click through, right? You just click through these answers. And so we actually collect, it takes about 25 minutes from beginning to end, asking you questions mostly you have on the top of your head. You may want to have your ADV handy if you aren't really familiar with, but most advisors do this on the top of their head. We ask 72 data points. We match on 7. And we allow you to expand your net or have it as narrow as you want. But we ask, where do you want to be matched? Are you looking nationally? Are you looking regionally? And so you do it by zip code, right? So number of miles in your search. So where? Years of experience. Are you looking to buy a firm or to find an advisor that is new to the industry? 5 years, 10 years? How long have they been in the business, right? Those years of experience matter. How are they compensated? Many firms are fee only. Some are hybrid. Some are, there are commissionable brokers out there. So how do you want to be compensated, right? What's your sense of urgency? Are you, when you find the right one, is this good? And also, how many households do you serve? If I have 50 million of AUM, the first thing you might say to me, Corey, is, oh, that's a nice business. That's nice, small, right? And then I tell you, I have 6 clients. And then you say, nice.
Right.
Nice. Or I tell you, I have 15 million of AUM and I have 500 clients. And then you're thinking, huge amount of people, small clients, right? So we ask how many households. So when you're going through, and so that's just what we match on, but when you're going through, we ask you click through and what your client breakdown is, how many high net worth, how many mass affluent, what 401k or pension, so that you get a sense of what is this business about, right? We ask philosophy and culture, and in that one we talk about, are you a lifestyle practice or are you an enterprise practice? And it's a little slider bar, so it's not like you've got to,
interesting.
right? It's not a hard. It's like I'm moving toward a lifestyle practice, or I'm moving toward an enterprise practice. So it's a little bit more than halfway, right? Do you have systems and procedures, so that there's a consistency of client care, right? So, and that's a slider bar. Yeah, I've got some. I don't have any, right? Do you have a growth plan, or are you just taking referrals as they come in, right? This sort of tells you a bit about a firm. Do you have an advisor growth plan, or are you just whatever, right? Who owns the clients? Is this silent, right? The firm as a whole or the advisor? So that's part of the philosophy and culture. So we ask a lot of information, which custodians, your primary, your secondary, what technology you use. Because, if I am a match with someone that uses the same TAMP and the same custodians and the same CRM, wow, that's going to be easy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. What I love about this, Mary Ann, there's two things there's a lot, but the two things specifically in this moment I'm thinking of that I love about it. One is, in terms of this podcast, whether people are in the the wealth management space or another space, the things you rattled off, are the start of a checklist
Yeah,
on what companies should be looking at. Even if they're in a totally different business. And
sure. Systems and procedures and consistency of client care.
Right, exactly. And it's and for somebody who is looking to acquire or onboard a talent or acquire a company, whether it's in the wealth management industry or not, most of those things are applicable, and so it sort of becomes a checklist. And then similarly, what I sort of thought to myself, not that in terms of users of RIA Match, not, of course, I am hoping that they find their match on the platform, etc. But it sounds to me like the experience of going through, just filling out that profile, forces them to think about all of the things that they should be thinking about anyway, which will also help them prepare to potentially find somebody, off your platform. Again, we hope they find them on your platform, but
but they may not. Absolutely,
they may not. And the point is that it is such a good exercise for them to do, to be prepared, even whether it's on RIA Match or off.
Thank you. No, it actually is true. So once you put all these inputs in, right, and it's just clicking through, then you submit and you get your profile. And so you can see there's the pie chart of the division of your client mix, high net worth, mass affluent, 401k, right? You see that. You see, the services that you offer. It's all the vehicles, investment vehicles that you use, what you outsource. So you get to see, am I scalable? I'm outsourcing compliance, I'm outsourcing back office, or I've got a virtual assistant. All that's right there. So you can see at a glance really sort of who you are, right? And that's a very good point. No, it does help. It does help them. And we added a My Story, which is an open text box section, which allows them to talk about their value proposition. And we actually have a whole an article on the site that they can read about how to write a good value proposition, what other people have said. And then in our concierge consulting, if they want, we can help them with that for not a huge engagement. We can help them get that organized, and then they can go out and do their own search, right? On our site, off our site. A lot of times advisors used to plan on going to those custodial conferences or maybe a product sponsor conference and meeting like-minded advisors and teaming up. That's been a very common way. In the olden days, that was like the only way, right?
Sure.
And then there were ways to meet other people, but now technology gives us this way to put our toe in the water and look around. And it's a great way to get started without making, no huge commitment. You just put your toe in the water and look around.
Love it. So I want to go in a different direction for a little bit, because I would love to. So you've had your own entrepreneurial journey around building RIA Match, and and all the anybody who's been an entrepreneur in any business, I don't care. There are ups and downs and challenges and wins and all that kind of stuff. So I'd love to hear in general, but also listen, there may be listeners in other industries my Fueling Deals podcast listeners, a number of them are in other industries. And, to create a marketplace for deals in a particular industry, I think is a very interesting thing for me. So I'd love to hear a little bit more just about your journey, the challenges, the ups, and the lessons learned on your particular entrepreneurial journey.
Well, so lessons learned. I feel like I have a PhD. Okay. So the idea was to bring you have this idea, right? And it was to bring a solution to, this is my world, right? I've spent my whole career in my space dealing, helping advisors and being an advisor myself initially. And so I'm very passionate about helping our world be better. And I talked to so many advisors that I helped with matching, right? Before RIA Match, and I helped with the divorces. Very sad, right? So I was really motivated for that. What I know nothing of, which this required a lot of, was technology. So I was so grateful to team up with Planet Systems Group. And they have been my technology strategic alliance all the way through, which has been fabulous. So having to be reliant, as an entrepreneur, you have to give up control. I had to give up control of that aspect because it's not what I knew. So that was a challenge.
So let me just stop you and dig in there, right? Because, this is a podcast on deals, and you just raised another type of deal, right? Which is a strategic alliance deal with a technology partner that you brought in to build something that you had the vision, the concept, the industry knowledge about, but you didn't have the technology. So I want to point that out, that because strategic alliances are such an underused approach in a lot of industries, where there is partners out there, and they can be structured in so many different ways. I mean,
right?
I don't know, and you can feel free to disclose or not disclose whatever you're comfortable with. But in some cases, the strategic partner will, it'll be an equity share. In some cases, it'll be just some sort of revenue share or
right.
profit share. In some cases, it's strategic, but it's really more a contract for services.
Yeah, no. Planet Systems Group has been, I invested. My family, right? We invested, but they have been they've gone above and beyond anything they charged me, above and beyond. Oh, it's been fabulous. So that giving up control to that aspect of the business. Another challenge was, how you do your pro forma, right? And you think this, you start with a universe of advisors, and then you look at the age, and you do this whole thing. And I thought, oh my God, I'm late to the party. The custodians are going to get this done before me. Well, what you forget is when you're a startup, you are so much more nimble.
Nimble, absolutely.
Right? I mean, so, kind of like look at a cruise ship trying to get around a bend in a river and a PT boat speeding around, right? So I really appreciate that. And now we do white labels for large institutions. So that's been a great teaming up with these firms.
Okay, so I'm going to stop you again, because again, I always like to point out, so white labeling is another kind of deal that
right.
people can do in any industry.
Right.
So just give me 2 sentences on what white labeling is so everybody understands it.
Sure. So RIA Match is out there, and it's great. And it's being well received. We've got, let me just do one quick thing here. We have over 5,000 subscribers across the nation with $450 billion of AUM under management in aggregate. But there are firms that are like, look, we want to keep our advisors here. We don't want them, like a custodian doesn't want to lose the right. And if they go on your site, they're going to meet somebody from another custodian, and they may take our stuff away. We want to keep it here. Or a large, collection of independent broker dealers under one umbrella. Like, we want to keep them here. So so here's a lesson, right? At first I said, no, that will, I'm going to cannibalize myself if I do that. 3 years in, I thought, no, I won't cannibalize myself. I will grow, right?
Right.
So then that's when we started doing white labeling. And what that means is a very similar but customized platform for another institution, that it just says, instead of RIA Match, it says custodian match or TAMP match or whatever, fill in the blank, right? And it's designed and delivered inside that firm's garden walls. So it's just for their firm. And there's no RIA match on it. We don't need that. Well, our client is that firm. And our mission is to give that firm the best possible product. And that's just been a very rewarding experience for us, and something I absolutely was not on the initial business plan.
Yeah, and that's great, and that's a true white label where basically nobody knows that you're powering.
Nobody
that.
knows.
There are some of those deals where it'll
say powered by.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
But it's important for the client that it be theirs.
Exactly, which is great. And there are so many more, white label deals out there that people realize that I think it's an underutilized deal structure. So it's great you pointed that out.
It is, and also so that's like being a silent, strong partner. I don't think anybody, whatever industry you're in, should think of that as a negative. I mean, that's a whole business line. Let me do for you. Let me serve you. And I don't need the accolades other than knowing that you as my client are well served.
And listen, let's face it, from an economical point of view, I'm sure, in most of the white label deals I know, I'm assuming it was true for you, there might have been some tweaking or customization or whatever that was done.
Huge
right?
Customization.
But even when there's huge customization, you're starting with, so depending upon the kind of white label deal, there could be just minor tweaking, through large customization. But even when there's large customization, you're starting with you're leveraging the base that you have already built and you've invested in, and you're amortizing that cost and expense and experience, and you have something that that you're working with. So you get to leverage that existing asset.
And when I say huge customization, Corey, what I mean is really more the look and feel.
Yes,
a little bit of functionality, but what I mean by that is when a client goes to one of our subscribers goes to RIA Match, and then they go to some other white label, they would no really idea. Go, oh wow,
right,
wow, got it. Same thing, but most people may not even think about it.
That's right, but largely the engine that runs it is all done, which is great.
The proprietary matching algorithms, the functionality, the workflow, all the layouts, just done.
Yeah, which is fantastic because now
it's a huge lift for the institution, because it would take them, full bar, it would take them a year, and it'd be a lot more expensive because they're starting from scratch.
That's right. So they'd rather pay you for that than you have an existing asset you can leverage and make more money on.
And it's way cheaper for the institution. Cheaper.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
Love it. I love it. So listen, we can speak about, there's so much we can talk about, but obviously, we have some time constraints on the podcast here. So I just want to give you an opportunity. I'm going to ask you one last question, but before I do that, I want to give you an opportunity to let people know where they can find you, because I'm sure they're going to want more information. So, what are the best contact, where they can find more information about you?
Great. Thank you, Corey. So my email is maryann.buchanan@riamatch.com. So maryann.buchanan@riamatch.com. So our website is right there, RIAmatch.com. We have support you can click on that all over the website and send us to our support team, and they can respond any questions. And if you want to speak to me, just say, message for Mary Ann, and they'll get it over to me. So no worries there.
That's great. So my final question that I always ask on the podcast is around authenticity, because I am it's a core value of mine. There's a reason my book is called Authentic Negotiating. And for me, authenticity is not about some sort of external ethics or integrity, although you need integrity. It's about this conversation of alignment, of self-knowledge and alignment with our true values, and making business decisions, building businesses, doing deals that are in alignment. Because I find that anything we do in life that's not in alignment ends up not to work out that well.
Right.
So my question for you is, as an entrepreneur, as a deal maker, as a thought leader, how do you make sure that your business decisions and your deals are aligned or in alignment with who you are?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's a good one. So there are a couple of different ways we would have articulated this in the past, right? We would have said, go with your gut, right? What are your true values that drive you? And that is, if you listen to your gut or you listen to yourself, you will be authentic, right? Another way of looking at that is, what are your boundaries, right? So, within a parallel. But for me, sort of my servant leadership has always really spoken to me. Now, of course, I didn't know that phrase for a long time. Then I read this book on servant leadership. I thought, oh, so there we go. So if I'm more focused on the value I'm bringing to the clients versus how great everything else is, like my platform or whatever, if I'm most focused on, is the client benefiting, and also being right up front with them, like, so this is what's good about it. And now let's talk about the hurdles, because nothing is without a hurdle. Here are the challenges, right? And so that level of, and now transparency is used all the time, but it's that level of transparency, but also the desire to truly bring value to the client. And that servant leadership, I think, helps me be authentic.
I love that. I identify as a servant leader as well. It's what drives me. So I personally identify that, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners do too. Mary Ann, thank you so much for being on the show. This has been such a joy.
Corey, my pleasure. My pleasure. And I want to thank you for all the times that you have come and given your legal wisdom on RIA Match. That's been very helpful to our subscribers, and those are recorded. So now I'm going to plug you, because anyone who goes to RIAmatch.com, scrolls to the bottom and clicks on webinars, you can hear Corey's guidance on establishing an RIA, the legal aspects of that, the challenges legally within the RIA community, running your own business and building your own business and starting it out. So lots of great information that you have been very gracious to bring to RIA Match. I want to thank you for that.
Oh, you're so sweet. That's great. And thanks again. And thank you, Fueling Deals listeners, for tuning in. Remember, there's only one difference between companies that grow inorganically and those that don't. And it's unrelated to size, amount of capital, or any other factor, other than that the owners and executives of companies that do deals make a decision to do deals, and then they take action. It's time to refuel. So until next week, Corey Kupfer signing out.
Thank you again for tuning in. Be sure to leave Fueling Deals a rating and review on iTunes and Google. Check out all our episodes at fuelingdeals.com to find out more resources to accelerate your business growth.